Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So today I've got an Audi A4 which has basically got fueling issues, so I've been asked to take the sender out and give it a bench test. So I'm going to run you through how to remove and refit a fuel tank sender in an Audi A4, but it pretty much covers Golfs, Passats, Skoda Fabias, most Skodas to be honest, and the same with the Volkswagens and the Audis, like the Audi A3 as well. So yeah, I'm going to run you through that, and then what I'm going to also do, I'm going to run you through how to bench test the pump when you've got the sender out of the tank. So dead easy guys, and if you've got any sort of fueling related issues on your vehicle and you're not 100% about the sender, it's worth testing just to put that out of your mind. So I didn't actually find anything wrong with this one, so it turns out it was all good, and I think we got a fault with the relay or something to do with the electrical side. But yeah, just to obviously eliminate the fuel pump, that's what I did. So yeah, let's take a look. Right then, so first thing we got to do is locate the sender. So what we're going to do is go in the boot and lift up the carpet on the floor, and in the right hand corner you'll find this panel held down with 3 screws. Now there's 3 Phillips head screws, one in each corner there, so we're just going to undo them and remove the panel. So I'll just set the camera up, there we go. So once we've got the screws out guys, just pull that panel out the way, and then you can see the sender. Obviously we've got an electrical plug, we got 2 of the feed and return pipes, and obviously the large nut which holds the sender in place. So the first thing we're going to do is push in the tab and remove the fuel pipe. So there's a little blue tab on this one, and then there's another tab on this one, so we're just going to get them out the way. They pretty much sit in the right place. You can mark them up if you want to guys, but I'll be honest with you, you won't get the one on the wrong port. It's they're different lengths, so shouldn't have a problem there. Next thing I'm going to do is take a little screwdriver and just pry the flap up. There's a little catch that holds the electrical plug, so I just pry that up with a screwdriver and pop that out the way. There is a little rubber grommet as well guys that clips to the floor, but I just pull, it just lifts up and you can pull the cable out the way, makes it a bit easier. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is undo this big plastic nut around the outside. So there is a special tool, but I just use a screwdriver. So what we're going to do is put it against one of the tabs and give it a good tap with the palm of your hand and turn the nut. Once you've turned him about 1/4 of a turn, you can just get your hand in here then and you can just wind him out. Well, I think that was a bit more than 1/4 of a turn, but you can see that you get the gist of it. Once it's cracked off, you can get your hand in there and just unwind it. Just make sure you hold the pipes out the way, otherwise they catch on the nut. And there he is. Right, now once we get the sender up, now what we're going to do now is remove the seal. Now there is a rubber seal that seats in the top of the tank, which the sender then clips into. So we're just going to grab that out the way first of all. So and there we go. So we lift him up a little bit and just pull this rubber seal, and then obviously you just stretch it over the top and we'll get that out the way. And then we'll lift the sender. Now there is a little green pipe that you have to remove. So there's a little black connector that goes onto a green pipe, and what you do is uncouple the back corrugated pipe, and then what you need to do is unclip the green pipe and pull it out the way. Now it's a little bit fiddly, you've got to kind of lift it up a bit and move it to the side. You can just about see the green piece there. So once you get the pipe off it, it's the same as the fuel connectors that you took off the top. You just push in a little tab and lift it up. I'm sorry I couldn't get the camera in there to get a good shot of this, but it's quite straightforward. Without taking this out the way, you physically won't get the sender out because it sticks so far forward. So you can see there now, I'm just here you go, unclipped him and then pulled him out. As you can see, she's quite stiff, so there's just no room. Once you've got that out the way guys, that's it. You can pretty much just lift the sender out. Just be careful because it is full of diesel, so you don't want to make a mess. And there she is, ready to come out. And that's it. Right, so here it is on the bench. So what we're going to do now is we're going to test the lift pump inside the middle of the sender. Now you can't actually see the pump, it's just down here buried inside the bottom body. Basically got two electrical connections. So you've got a black wire and a yellow wire. The yellow wire is actually the earth and the black wire is the supply. Kind of the opposite way to what I expected, but that's how it is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little screwdriver and remove the two electrical connections. Don't try pulling them off because there's a little tab and they will break. So you just push the little tab and lift the connector off. It's quite straightforward. And then I'm just going to tuck the wires out of the way because I'm going to bypass this wiring and I'm going to manually operate the pump myself. So, well, electrically. So, right. There's our wires disconnected. Now this is the little pipe we disconnected earlier off the green pipe, and that's just tucked up out the way and make sure we got some room. So now what you're going to need here, guys, is a 12-volt battery. So I've got a little battery lying about here which I'll just put up on the bench here out the way. So set that up there, and I've also got a test wire that I've made up, and it's always handy to keep test wires. And yep, so earth, obviously power and earth. And then what I've done, I've put two basically spade terminals on the end of this wire. Now I could just connect them straight to the pump, but I always like to fuse everything just in case, say this pump was shorted or there was a major problem. So there's my two spades. I could just plug them straight on, but I wouldn't like to do that. So like you say, always fuse everything, and then you're not gonna not gonna mess it, not gonna damage anything. And if it was shorted, it could, your wires could catch fire and all sorts. So I've got a little link wire which I'm going to put on the positive side, so obviously where the black wire goes on, my earth goes direct, and then I'm basically going to plug a fuse into my supply wire, and then I'm just going to touch it. So it's basically that simple, guys. That's how I'm going to operate the pump. Right, so I'm going to set up a little microphone here, guys, so you can listen to the noise. It's always good to operate the pump and just hear what it sounds like. It should be a nice clear buzz when you operate the pump. Any sort of crackling or or if it stops and goes for a bit. So yeah, have a listen. Right then, as you could hear then, my pump sounds lovely, so that's exactly what you want to listen for. That's a good pump. It's quite clear, there's no crackles, it didn't stop. So what I'm going to do now is take a nice clean bucket that I've cut the top off here, nice drum, as you can see. And then what I'm going to do is put my sender unit inside the drum, so obviously don't make a mess. And then what you want to do is locate the outlet pipe, otherwise you're going to end up with a mess. So basically this corrugated pipe here that spirals around the unit, it goes to this port here nearest the electrical plug. That's our outlet pipe. So I'm just going to stick a little bit of hose on there, just so I can direct the flow back into the bucket and it doesn't make a mess, otherwise it's going to squirt up like a fountain. Now what I'm going to do now is pour a bit of diesel into the bucket. Now you've got to remember here, there's a cup in the bottom of the sender where the fuel pump is actually located. There's a bit of a cup. Now you need to fill that cup with diesel. As you can see now, that diesel isn't going into the bucket. There you go. Once it fills the cup, then it flows out into the bucket. So just fill the cup up and then you can start pumping from there. And if you actually aim the pipe into the center, it'll keep recirculating and you can actually run it for longer. But obviously I realized that after I did it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it up and pump some diesel. So let's have a listen to that and see what it looks like. So there we have it, guys. So as you can see there now, it's pumping well and it sounds nice and clear. There's no crackling, there's no stopping, it's not struggling, and that's what we're basically listening for. Obviously I can't tell you the exact flow rate or anything like that, but you know, it's quite self-explanatory really. If it's pumping diesel, you know it's right. So yeah, so what I'm going to do here now is just hook it back up. What I actually did here, just to try something different, I actually run the pump backwards. Now a good friend of mine reckons he did this, so yeah, let's just see what that sounds like as well. And there we go. So I run it backwards a little bit as well. Now I was told by a good friend of mine who actually did this to his Golf. He basically said that the pump was stuck, and then he run it backwards, and then obviously it eventually, after running it backwards and forwards a few times, it freed up, and he actually fixed the problem. So it might be something worth trying, guys, and it won't hurt it to run the pump backwards, but it won't obviously pump. So yeah, so what we do now is reconnect the two wires back up. Just remember, it's the black wire to the inner and yellow wire to the outer, and that's the pump reconnected. Don't worry about how loose these wires are. They're designed like that. They sit inside the tank, so there's nowhere they can go. So yeah, so obviously you can see this little green pipe clips on the side, so obviously you can see why that's makes it a bit of a nightmare to get it out. So here's the sender now back into place. So this is the fun bit now. We got to get this little green pipe back into place. So first thing you want to do is obviously put the float for the level the actual fuel tank level sensor in there first. Drop it in, but obviously don't put it all the way. We're just going to get it in and obviously twist it around. Now that green thing, basically that green pipe points forward, so what you need to do is get it with the sender with the electrical plug at the back. I'm just getting it into place now by ear, and then what you do is you feed this down into the tank, and then as you'll see here now, it'll just clip into place. It is a little bit fiddly, but you can do it, it's not too bad. I guess this is why it's kind of staggered like that, the pump. It's not straight, so it does it so you can get your hand in there. So once you've got that clipped into place, we're just going to put the pipe back onto that green pipe, and then that's it. That's all connected back up. Right, now the next thing we're going to have to do now is get it all located, and then we'll get the seal. So get that seal and give it a wipe and put it back in. Always make sure it's nice and clean. The last thing you want is a bit of dirt causing it to leak. So we'll stretch it over the top. As you can see, there is a lip on the one side of the seal, so we're going to obviously keep the lip to the top and then just stretch the seal then over the top. Now it is a little bit, you can push it under here and just get it over quite easily. And there we go. And now I'll be honest, what I always do with this now is seat the seal in the tank first. Don't put it on the sender and then try to push the sender down, because the sender doesn't like to go into place then. So what I always do is seat the seal into the rim of the tank and then push the sender into place. Now it is sprung loaded, these senders, which make them a bit awkward to get the nut on, but I guess it's like that for a reason. So as you can see there, it's kind of sprung loaded. So what we're going to do is put the nut on. Now what I always do is with one hand hold the sender down, and then with the other back the nut until you feel the threads click, and then wind it forwards. Trust me when I say these things are really easy to cross thread, and believe it or not, they're such a coarse thread you wouldn't think so, but they are so easy to cross thread. And yeah, make sure you get him on nice and straight. Now once we've wound him down as far as we can with our hands, we're just going to make sure she's as tight as we can get him with our wrists, and then we're going to get my screwdriver and give it a nice firm tighten. So like you say, just tap it around a couple of times and just give the sender a wiggle. You'll see when it's tight, you can't really go wrong. Right, so we'll connect our two pipes up and then obviously insert our boot back into the floor, and then clip the electrical plug back onto the sender, and that's pretty much it, guys. So it's just a matter now of dropping the cover back on, and there's your new sender fitted. Obviously mine is the same sender because there's nothing wrong with it, but at least I've checked it, and we can go from there now. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helps, and please subscribe and hit the like button.